welcome to the Decentralized new podcast where we report the major events affecting the crypto economy. I'm your host, Piter, joined as always by Ozzy. What's up, dude?
What's up?
All right, let's jump right into our educational and entertaining content. Obviously, the big story is Trump. We're going to stick to keeping it around crypto. But basically, he is seen as a more bullish politician for crypto and more likely to win, and is seen in betting markets and polling in the wake of this weekend's disturbing events. There's a couple of thoughts that I just wanted to bring up. One, he's still planning to speak July 27th. This could change, but he's still planning to speak July 27th at the Nashville Bitcoin conference, despite the July 13th assassination attempt. It is not a swing state, so the power of him going there is really the topic. So Tennessee is going to be Republican by any stretch, but there's enough single issue voters that it will reach for him to go out of his way to attend this. So I thought that was worth noting.
I'm going to also touch on that a little bit because Bitcoin Nashville is actually superseding Bitcoin Miami as one of the biggest Bitcoin events of the year now. So if you're if you're a Bitcoin maxi in the US or in a country that doesn't have visa issues with the US, you are likely trying to be there as a big player in Bitcoin. And so him speaking there will not only allow him to reach just Tennesseans, he'll probably reach people from all over the US that are single issue voters on Bitcoin or big enough in Bitcoin that they're traveling to go to Bitcoin Nashville.
Yeah, it could be really epic, honestly. So I'm excited, and it could be a big catalyst going forward. The other major thing is he is still attending the Republican National Convention, which started today with the recording. And there's an expectation, it could be this week, not necessarily, but there's a pending VP pick. And depending on the pick, it could be a very bullish catalyst for crypto and Bitcoin in general as well. And in light of these recent events, there is a lot of people calling, it's just people calling for it, but that him and Bobby Kennedy Jr. joined forces. So like the surge in the poll with that plus the 9-10% independent candidates would just be a huge slam dunk. It seemed like you guys get together. This is the time. We got to heal the nation, that kind of a thing. And that would be incredibly bullish, just absolutely gigantic with a VP selection. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, there's what Trump does with his VP selection. Will determine how his polling does, if it helps his polling or not. If he picks kind of someone that was already in the Republican camp, then he's not necessarily expanding his reach, but going with an independent like Kennedy, if Kennedy's willing to get on board, that's a whole other story. Could be even more bullish for crypto because you're just adding a pro-crypto candidate as your VP as well, and expanding your reach. That's pretty massive for crypto as a whole.
Now, Bitcoin is up almost 6% as we're recording this. We're up on the 24 hours. We're up to 63.5, almost 63.4. This is not the only bullish news coming out, but a lot of it's been overshadowed. So we're going to quickly cover all of it. But anyway, just to go over it, Germany done selling, possibly done selling. Maybe not all the selling is done, but anyway, their account is empty. We had a cool CPI come in the United States, the inflation. We have the incoming ETH ETF, which a lot of people are expecting this week. Positive BTC ETF inflows. That was a really good week last week. And then the one that really slipped under the radar, the SEC ends the BUSD Paxos program. So we'll start with Germany. Why don't you kick us off there?
Yeah, so Germany's crypto wallet address that Arkham Intelligence has been tracking and was known to be holding their Bitcoin, that's empty. So everything's been moved to market makers or to exchanges. So maybe it's not all done being sold on an exchange or in deals with market makers, but in general, they've got no more to send to an exchange.
It was empty. They emptied it, but...
Yes, but people have been trolling Germany and sending them different jokes, including someone sent 1.87 Bitcoin. That's over almost $120,000. Can't believe someone has enough Bitcoin and feels ballsy enough to do that. 1.87 is a death murder reference. So That was an interesting thing, and there was an inscription that you've got a better understanding of than I do.
It's just HFSP German government. So just have fun staying poor. So they sent 1.87 Bitcoin and cost them 1.87 Bitcoin to troll them and say HFSP German. And other people have been sending in a little money too. Just, and we feel sorry for you. Here's a little Bitcoin. But yeah, that's a lot. But it makes a big statement. I thought it was a pretty cool story, actually.
Yeah, and that is like pretty bullish. Just the fact that there's no more immediate selling pressure, which didn't necessarily have enough liquidity to absorb it on a daily basis.
It seemed to be trending up. The news of that on Friday seemed to help the market. It seemed to start trending up from there, which is a big boom at the end of the weekend.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that we can talk about is like Mt. Gox. People are starting, like, when the first news came out that, oh, they're getting ready to release coin, now that more people have thought about it and it's been discussed, people are getting a bit more rational about it than before. Like how we were talking about on last week's show, just about, hey, it's not, they've been holding on for so long, they probably aren't, they know what part of the cycle we're in, they're probably not dumping.
All of it won't get sold. It's a debatable how much. And we just sold 50,000 off, right? And the market survived. So that's fresh in our memory. And now what? I think this one was 150, 190, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Three times. So impact, but they sold 100% of the 50. Not 100% is going to be sold. We've already been through this and we've been waiting for this. It's almost like we need to go through this. Let's go through this. Like let's.
Yeah, and I almost feel like it's partially priced in at this point. Like, we went down so far, not even that far, but we went down far enough that people were freaking out and, oh, is this the end of the bull market, et cetera, that this push, this like bump back up is partially a response to that overreaction and some of that pricing in, I think.
The other bullish one was the ETF inflows. It was a positive week, one of the best one in a while, since early June, but one of the big weeks of all. But it took in 1 billion in assets last week, and now the net inflows for all 10 spot U.S. Bitcoin funds stands at 15.8 billion. And to put that in the context, that's like number 10 in market cap. Cardano is around that, or you could put like Polygon and AVAX together. It's like the similar amount of money, but 15.8 billion they've taken in since January, so in a few months.
That's really bullish, and especially because it's just getting started. Like it's still early. Like the fact that we hit an all-time high pre-halving and we had a bit of a pullback, it reminds me of the summer 2020. If we think about, we didn't necessarily hit an all-time high then, but we hit a nice high, we came down, we traded in a range for a couple months of the summer, and then we were off to the races and we hit a really good spot after that. And so I think there's just still more money coming and still more people to get on the boat. So I'm not too worried.
Yeah, I'd say it's more like a big luxury liner or an aircraft carrier that needs to maneuver around. It's going to take a little time to get going, but once it's moving, it may be hard to stop.
Exactly.
We got some new ETFs on the horizon as well.
Yeah, ETH ETFs probably this week, hopefully this week. Depends on who you talk to. Some people are like, it's more of a hopeful, and some are saying it's pretty probable.
When you look at the dates, it seems, okay, what are we waiting for here? July 8th was when everything was supposed to be turned in. Everything was. There was, I think it was Cointelegraph. They have an anonymous source close to the proceedings saying it's going to happen by the end of the week. We'll see. But we reported last week as today as a date from Jane Safer and Arrow about Kunis. But either way, it seems like they're running out of runway to delay.
I think expectations are just like, okay, what's going on now? Yeah, I think people are getting a little bit anxious, and that's even coming from the analysts. You can see they're getting anxious to see that approval, and from Bloomberg and all of these different kind of sources that are not just like retail crypto. They're talking to institutions. They're also representing institutional interests. So I think that's worth paying attention to too. If they're anxious, then they probably have institutional clients that are anxious as well.
Yeah, and there's a lot of speculation on what this is going to mean for the market, for ETH, and I'd like to see it just actually start playing out. I want to see this 6 months from now and start looking at some real numbers and see where this is going.
I'm pretty anxious to see where it's going to. I think it took a beating, went down to like 3K. It's now at 3.3 the last I checked. I think everyone's anxious that's been sitting here to see the market get going, and I think it will. I just think everyone needs to be a bit patient in terms of Rome wasn't built in a day. Every bull market's taken 4 years, so let's give it the time that it needs to really crank to full gear. If it goes to 100K tomorrow, guess what? It's probably coming back down to 60 pretty fast. If we build it up, we might have a bit more. Some of these higher levels might sustain themselves a bit longer if we go into the bear market, when we do transition into the bear market.
I'm excited to see what happens with ETH. Do they start to see some real competitors come up from behind? Does ETH ETF really help stabilize it as the number 2 moving forward? Are we going to start hearing calls for the flippening? Is it possible? Is there going to be enough momentum from this event to start pushing for those calls again? We'll be watching. The other little story that kind of slipped through was the SEC ended a year-long probe into BUSD Paxos, the Binance stablecoin.
Yeah, so it was more Paxos, but BUSD was what was being called a security because they do have other products. So like It was the whole company, but yeah, BUSD was the main flag at the time.
I remember when that story came out, that was a very bearish time in the market. I think it was before Binance, Binance CEO got arrested, but it was just, there was a lot of attention, but they got a new CEO, Richard Tang, supposed to be more compliant, all that. They've weathered the storm fairly well. They've kept their position in market cap. Then we have this coming out. And on July 9th, it was the acting chief of crypto assets and cyber unit reportedly notified Paxos that they did not plan to recommend any enforcement action. So big win for crypto, big win for Binance moving forward.
Yeah, pretty big win, and I'm pretty happy to see it. I think it's well worthwhile for Paxos and for crypto to see, a stablecoin isn't a security. And so that was a great thing to see in terms of everything. And it spelled what I thought was happening at the time of they went after BUSD to start hurting Binance's credibility so that they could then really go after CZ and shut down the books from there, and also just give them an early look at some of Binance's books before they had the ability to really go after Binance. It makes sense.
There seems to be a closing to this chapter, and it's nice to see. And I was skeptical about how Binance was going to survive this, but I thought they've done very well weathering the storm.
They've done a very good job weathering the storm, and so I'm glad for Binance. I don't use them. I don't have access to them, but the fact that they didn't shut down completely was a good thing, just because it could have set off a bit more of another section of crypto bear that was a bit more bearish. So it's good taking out a negative catalyst from holding back this bull market. So I'm glad to see that for sure.
The last kind of piece really takes us right into macro, so we can touch on all that. But CPI came out last week, and it came in cool. The monthly CPI, cool, came in negative. Core CPI, cool, beating expectations. Year-over-year CPI, cool, beating expectations. This is downright cold.
Yeah, it was wild. Honestly, we're seeing some pretty massive change in CPI and in inflation like this for a while, and to see that big of a change has a really big impact on what the Fed might do and when we might see an expectation of a cut. And that's just even buoyed by the fact that Jerome Powell spoke in front of Congress and the House today, and he indicated that the Fed won't wait until inflation is down to 2% before cutting rates. So that means a cut is coming sooner than later. With the CPI coming in, it was below 3, which is a first in a long time. We really can't be more bullish than that. Looking at CPI year over year core was at 3.3. CPI year over year was 3. So we're really getting a lot closer, and PPI year over year came in on the core side, not on the overall PPI. So overall good moves on PPI and CPI this week. With Jerome Powell saying cuts coming soon, I really am expecting to see 100% chance of a cut in September. I would be really astounded if that isn't the case right now. I'm double checking as we speak. And it's so July, it's 91% chance of no cut. And then September has jumped to a 90% chance of one cut and a 10% chance of two cuts. That's pretty bullish. And we're seeing even more bullishness shift towards a November cut and potentially even a December cut. I think the market's got reasons to be bullish now, and that could be money flow coming into crypto.
Yeah, I think this is definitely one of the reasons why the market is pumping. And then you had Powell speaking today. Apparently, he said something along the lines of, "We wait for 2% inflation. We've waited too long." So we see a positive CPI. We see slightly more dovish comments coming out of that. It's not necessarily we're going to hit 2%. We're going to do it before. So they're signaling that. Exciting times.
Yeah, and that means he's talking about cutting before 2%. We're at 3. He's talked about 1 or 2 cuts this year. That was also in his comments. And he said potentially, and it looks like we're just getting closer and closer to, hey, cut time's coming. And Bitcoin usually, like, the bull market doesn't usually kick off when rate cuts start. They usually kick off when rate cuts stop. So once we hit the bottom level. So it's starting to provide that extra fuel that will really turn this bull market ballistic in 2025 when we're seeing Bitcoin at 240, 250K, possibly. Hopefully.
Well, I don't know. I told you my feeling. I think one of the biggest things that's going to affect how well or how bullish I'm going to allow myself to get in this cycle will come down to the presidential elections. I think if we get Biden, it's a lot lower than if we were to get Trump in the middle and then, say, Robert Kennedy, which isn't really likely, but that would be the most bullish scenario where I could see Bitcoin doing a 3 to 5x or something like that. At least it's possible. But so that's just going to lead us into this kind of PolyMarket story. So PolyMarket is on Polygon, lead us into the speed run. They've seen a lot of use and kind of free media because of this, just the U.S. election cycle and how big the race is and how much it affects crypto. So it's tracking that. But PolyMarket was founded 4 years ago by Shane Copeland, and it has seen huge trading volumes in 2024 and enthusiasm for political betting. For example, the presidential winner contract has 252 million on it. And these prediction markets are so interesting, an interesting use case of blockchain in general, just beyond, which chain is better. This is just an app that everyone wants to use, but they're considered more reliable gauge of sentiment and superior to polling because people are actually putting their money where their mouth is, and it expresses a more honest opinion of what's going on.
Yeah.
So exciting times, and nice to see a surge for Trump, which I think is going to be a big deal for how the potential of this bull, basically.
Yeah, and the one thing we do need to take with a grain of salt with PolyMarket and everyone that's using PolyMarkets right now as data is you've got to take into consideration who's using crypto. And crypto users tend to be a bit more libertarian or right leaning most of the time, not always. And so there is some bias in the data, but yes, people are putting money where their mouth is, and so that is probably better than.
It's a fair point because these betting markets were wrong, as well as the polling in like the recent French elections. Things can change quickly, and nobody can predict the future for sure.
Yeah, and so I just want to put that caveat in there because I do think that, like, I come with a science background, and if you look at statistics, you got to look at how you're sampling, and polling doesn't sample generally. It depends who answers the phone, what time you're calling, whether they actually care or not, or they're just answering your question with whatever answer they think you want. And then, or you've got a biased sample, but they're engaged and they actually believe in their opinion. It'll be really interesting to see how PolyMarkets grows, and I'm pretty interested because I do think that's a huge and bullish use case for Polygon.
There's a couple more little speed run blurbs. Have you heard of this token Cloud?
I've never heard of Cloud, so this is interesting to me.
It's just like apparently it's the largest token or the largest tokenless protocol on Solana, and they're launching. So
Oh, Sanctum. Okay, I have heard of Sanctum, yes.
yeah, the token is Cloud. So
Yeah, so that's bullish. They're launching on July 16th, so tomorrow on the Jupiter Launchpad, so that's pretty bullish. And then Radiant is launching on Base this month, isolated lending, enabling the creation of markets for any meme coin. So that's pretty big for meme coins on Base, bullish for Radiant as well. On top of that, we've got a little bit of new from Goon. I'm involved with Goon. Remember, nothing about this is financial advice. Please do your own research. But Goon right now is working with their community to set up a LP fund, which is with the goal of helping to deepen the liquidity on Goon. Go check out the Telegram. Super awesome group of people. They've already reached over 50% of their goal, and there's some matching funds out there with different members of the Goon community matching other people's donations. Pretty bullish there on Goon. On top of that, they're hosting their first X Spaces with the Jesse meme token on Polygon and Holy Cow, which is another meme token on Polygon. So pretty bullish there. They're starting to get into the Twitter space.
These are all when market. These are all when market coins.
Yeah, they're all one market tokens, and that's pretty big. I've also heard that they've got some more lined up for next week as well. So
it's interesting to see what's launching. A lot of what's launching on when markets or that is trying to launch is around Goon a little bit. You have City and Council, Jesse, some other Goon ones, some Goon offshoots. And we are out of when, or I say, Goon is the largest meme coin to be launched out of when. Like by many
many multiples. And
yeah, and it's still like a low market cap coin, but it's heads and tails above the rest so far. But it's cool that they're getting into the history of it and doing a space on that and letting the other competitors essentially come up and share. It's
yeah,
cool.
and like they're right now, Goon's like the second biggest meme coin on Polygon. Doge is probably the biggest one at around 10 million market cap.
Within sights.
It's within striking distance, that's for sure. So let's see if the Goon community will strike hard and reach that 10 million market cap goal sooner than later, especially with that LP fund. If they can get that topped up and reach that market cap, they're really playing with fire there, and we can see it especially in all of their mega raids that they're doing. So if you're a Goon community member, join the Telegram and join the mega raids. They've definitely been making a difference because holder count is climbing, and so is the number of people in the Telegram. It's been growing fast lately.
Right on. We'll finish it up there. Thanks everybody for joining us today. Please do consider a like and subscription. Comment anything you want to share. We'd love to hear from you. This is not financial advice. Please do your own research. We do this for the fun of it. Honestly, we just like keeping up on the news. We follow the news. Basically, it's nothing to bet on. It's interesting to follow and see where the market has been, so to speak. This is for educational entertainment purposes only. So yeah, be safe out there, everybody.
Yeah, be safe, and tune in next time for Goon updates, news updates, and our opinions on it all. See you guys next time. Bye.